Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Senator Middleton. So Middleton, am I reading your bill correct that the civil penalty for a first-time offense is $5,000 for using?
That assumes a couple things in there, yes, but you have two different opportunities to cure on that.
How's that?
So there's a 3-day provision, right? So there's the Attorney General reporting, but that can't happen until you've had 3 business days where you've essentially attempted to cure this with a political subdivision of the state or a state agency, where they have the opportunity to fix it. And then at that point, you can file an Attorney General complaint, and then that triggers a 15-day window. And then at that point, if it's still not cured, then you may be subject to that penalty, right? So there's actually 2 chances.
Okay. And then again, later in the bill, it shows that there's a $25,000 per day violation after this first offense, this being imposed. And a $25,000 violation is similar to things like producing or selling or offering mislabeled, abusable synthetic substances, forfeiture of contraband. And your bill that is designed so that people who aren't, I guess, the sex that's labeled on the bathroom door, that those people don't go in, you have $25,000 violation. Is that accurate?
Or repeated, yes.
Repeated offense, okay.
Repeated.
Is that?
After there's been a failure to cure. Failure to cure.
No, go ahead. You were telling me something you were explaining.
Yes, after failure to cure.
Okay. Who would prosecute these cases?
So there's no criminal penalty in this bill. This is civil, of course. Perhaps there could be some other associated criminal penalty, like we have some data here that I'd like to go through. For example, on sexual assault and rape, nearly 60% of sexual assault cases are women 0 to 19, right? This is females only. And then rape, nearly 60% are women and girls 0 to 19. And I think that shows you the importance of this bill.
Well,
this protects families, Senator. It's protecting families.
What number of people have been assaulted in bathrooms? Do we have any data that shows that people are being assaulted in bathrooms?
It's improper that someone of the opposite sex should go in, for example, with my 3-year-old daughter.
I don't disagree.
Is that okay? Is that okay if she's in the restroom, if an adult man goes in there with her? And that's never okay.
No,
it's never okay.
I agree. I don't disagree with that. Let's look at this.
What about in a locker room?
Pardon me?
Or a locker room, for example?
No, we don't agree with that as well. So let's see here. Your bill, if an individual is wanting to use a restroom, but there has been a previous complaint and the agency requires some type of confirmation of gender, how would the agency, or let's say a complaint's been made, how would someone confirm the gender of the individual? Who's going to enforce that the person is male or female? If, let's say, someone is in transition and it's hard to tell, someone says, no, that's a man, and they say, no, I'm a woman. How do we know who?
Well, that's a lot easier thanks to the Department of State Health Services order from August, I believe, of 2024, and the DPS order from January of 2025. And essentially what that says is it's close to the bill that we passed in this chamber as well, that in your birth certificate, it's got to be your at-birth sex. And the driver's license has to match that. Makes it a lot easier. That was Governor Abbott's order that was recently put into effect a few months ago for DPS, a little longer for Department of State Health Services. Obviously, we passed legislation in this chamber that would have the same effect. Make sure that your at-birth sex is accurately entered at the time that you're born.
So under this legislation, who's going to stand at the door and ask to see your ID or your birth certificate?
Well, so Senator, this is already in effect in a number of school districts and cities, in fact. And the earth has not collapsed. The world has not ended. The city of Odessa, for example, had a 2024 ordinance that ensured that facilities, private facilities, such as restrooms and libraries, recreation centers, you had to use your at-birth sex designated facility, right? And that was I believe a $500 fine and up to $10,000 in damages. Go through a number of school districts as well: Keller ISD, Frisco ISD, Fort Bend ISD, Cypress Fairbanks, Katy ISD, Grapevine, Colleyville. This policy has actually been enacted in a lot of local political subdivisions of the state, but that's also part of the problem here that we seek to address, is it's a patchwork.
So have you ever been to a very, very busy function, a sporting event, a concert, and the bathrooms are side by side, and the men's bathroom, everybody's running in and out, and the women's bathroom is a very long line? Have you ever had that experience?
I've seen that before, yeah.
You've seen
Sure.
it? I've been in that experience, and at times when I've said, hey, there's a stall open, would you want to jump ahead? Because if someone's about to have an accident, so now if this bill passes, does that mean we can't let someone go into the men's restroom, a lady who's about to have an accident, or she's going to get fined?
You have to use the dedicated sex restroom or private facility, but it does not prevent single occupancy use facilities, such as a family restroom, for example. I think in nearly every situation you're describing with a sports arena or some sort of large public facility, those restrooms exist, and there's an exemption in this bill where those are still allowed to continue. So that's an option that's available, and this bill doesn't prevent that option from being available.
I understand. I understand the intent of your legislation. My concern is that, because I don't want anyone assaulted. I don't want any children assaulted. I don't want any women assaulted. I don't want anyone targeted, harassed. And I would hope that we could agree that in our desire to protect young women, we don't put a target on other people who may be in transition, or maybe we don't even think, we have no idea. We may be like, maybe it is, maybe it isn't, but now someone's going to have, if this bill passes, the opportunity to say, hey, you shouldn't be in there. If they just want to use the restroom, they're not looking to assault anybody. Aren't you worried about putting a target on people?
I'm worried about our families. I'm worried about women and children, Senator. I'm worried about the stories that we heard in committee.
Yeah.
I'm worried about Brooke Slussers. What we heard from her, I think you were probably there in committee, where she didn't even know it, and it was an overnight trip, right?
Right.
And she was on the volleyball team.
Right.
And she had to share a private room with a man. She didn't know that till later. Or Riley Gaines' case, for example. That's where she first found out that there was going to be a man unfairly competing against her on her swimming team. There was a naked man in her locker room. Is that okay?
Yeah, no, I'm not for that. I'm trying to keep people from getting hurt of all kinds. I just don't want us to pass a bill that's going to potentially put a $5,000 fine on someone because they had to use a restroom. And look, you've mentioned it yourself, family restrooms. If I go to whatever grocery store, typically it's H-E-B in San Antonio, there's a family restroom. That's where I take my 4-year-old granddaughter. And I don't want her in the men's restroom for lots of reasons. Men tend to be disgusting when they use a restroom. So I just want what you want without putting a target on everyday Texans. Thank you for answering my questions.